Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is the game preview ahead of tomorrow's Premier League fixture against Wolverhampton Wanderers away from home. The games are coming thick and fast and Everton yet again play another midweek game. This time on a Tuesday, I think it's a 8:15 kick-off. Obviously Everton coming into it off the back of a positive 2-1 win against Rotherham United in the FA Cup. Not a fantastic performance. Me and Tom have just done the live game review regarding that game and talking about how it wasn't very good basically, but we won and obviously coming into it off the back of a Premier League defeat against West Ham on New Year's Day, which of course we need to we need to go out and put right ultimately. Big thanks Tom for coming on once again to talk about this one. It's going to be a very difficult game, isn't it? Carlo Ancelotti's had his pre-game press conference today. He was asked for an injury update. He basically confirmed that Alan is around 10 to 15 days away from being back within the squad, so he won't be available for this game, which isn't anything that we didn't expect, to be honest. However, he did confirm Dominic Calvert-Lewin has picked up a hamstring injury. He actually picked it up in the game against West Ham. However, he never really had an injury like that, Carlo said, so he sort of played through it, so he'll be unavailable for this one. And Richarlison is also a doubt. Didn't say why, just said he's a doubt and he'll have to be tested today and tomorrow to see if he's fit to start. So this was already going to be a very difficult game of football even prior to the injury news, because obviously of how Wolves play. They're a very attacking side, good side, solid Premier League side. I've been for a couple of seasons now. It's now even more difficult, the fact that we haven't got arguably, our best player in terms of scoring goals in Calvert-Lewin, and then one of our best creators in Richarlison. So are you confident going into this one, or just think go there, scrap a point or something and sort of take it and come away?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it in terms of if we had a full strength side and you look at anything, yeah, I'd fancy it going to these, because you look at Wolves this season and they're a bit of that middle of the road team at the moment, aren't they? I think they've brought a lot of youngsters in. I mean, devastating loss to with Jimenez going against Arsenal, but they went and won that game. I mean, you've got the likes of Pedence, Cody, Ruben Neves, so Moutinho as well, centre. So they have got very good players, but you're looking at it and you think they can be got at. I mean, they got beat by Burnley, but then the week before they beat Chelsea, so they're a bit of an up and down team. They drew, I mean, the last three games they've drew with Tottenham, come back to, I think they scored near in the final minute, didn't they, against Tottenham? I think they only just got beat by United with Rashford last minute winner. I mean, the other week it was against Brighton. He went 3-0 up. Brighton come back and won 3-3. So, and then obviously Friday they went and beat Crystal Palace 1-0. So I mean, I think that was quite tight. So yeah, I mean, you'd be confident, but looking at the most attacking threats with Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison maybe out, it's going to be a difficult one, isn't it? I think they've got, I mean, if you look at Wolves' squad depth compared to Everton's, I think they've got better players to come in and facilitate them players. I mean, I know Silva up front, I know he's only a young lad, but he's highly rated, but he's a striker who ultimately can do a lot of good things for the team. I mean, Neto and Adama Traore are big threats, in my opinion. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. I mean, if you give me a draw now, I'd happily take it and you move on to Villa.
Spot on. I think, like you said before, if you've got a full strength side out and you've got Richarlison fit and confident basically, because even when he has been fit recently, he hasn't looked very confident. You've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin fit. You've got James firing. I think we put up a good test against Wolves and could come away with the 3 points. And I'm not saying we won't come away with the 3 points tomorrow, and we should just sort of take what we can now, because it'll be a difficult game, and like we said before on the Rotherham review, Tom, is you just don't know what Everton are going to turn up. Really, Everton turned up against Chelsea having no left back in Luca Dean. a young left-back in Niles Nkunku who Carlo Ancelotti didn't really seem to trust, and, that lack of creativity that Luca Dean, offers you when he's in the team and when he's not in the team, the lack of that, and we turned up and we beat a very, very difficult Chelsea side, and we played really, really well. Obviously, Ben Godfrey slotted in at left-back, Mason Holgate slotted in at right-back and done very well. We then obviously had Alan injured, and we managed to make up for that one. Tom Davis stepped in against Sheffield United, done really well, so maybe Carlo will make a couple of changes, certainly within that midfield, that might mean we sort of adapt a little bit and Wolves don't expect it and we can come away with the 3 points. I just don't know what to expect from Everton anymore, because it's, again, one game we put in an awful performance against a side that we should be beating comfortably. In the next game we put in a brilliant performance against a side that's very difficult to beat, but it is going to be very, very difficult. They'll obviously miss Raul Jimenez, as they have done for quite a few weeks now. He is their main goal threat, main goal scorer, but like you said, Tom, they have got the quality to be able to bring off the bench. You might necessarily be on the level of Raul Jimenez, but still able to score goals and create chances in the Premier League, and ultimately that's something that Everton haven't got. We haven't got a striker that comes on, who you can say, right, okay, you're not as good as Dom, but you'll come on and make and make an impact on the team. We just simply, we struggle without our key players, and we've seen that recently. We've seen that when James hasn't been available. We've seen that with Richarlison being off, not even when he's been, away from the team. Look, the stats speak for itself. We've won one game without Richarlison since he joined the football club, and that was the most recent one we played against Sheffield United, let alone when he's playing and he's not really on form, and we struggle when we miss him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin will obviously be a massive, massive loss tomorrow. We will go through our predicted starting 11 in a moment. Like you mentioned there, some of the results about from Wolves. Wolves currently 13th in the Premier League, 6 wins, 4 draws, 7 losses. Beat Palace in the FA Cup last time out, of course, and then there was that draw to Brighton. 3-3, lost to Manchester United, which was in the last seconds of the game, which is a very, very unfortunate loss. Drew 1-1 to Spurs, lost 2-1 to Burnley, and then beat Chelsea the week before. So they concede goals, Wolves, don't they? And they can definitely concede chances if you can create and you can, get into the right areas. But they're also a very good threat going forward. And since they've been back in the Premier League, we haven't done very well against Wolves. I don't know if we've beaten them since they've been back in the Premier League, to be honest with you. I know we turned up there during the lockdown fixtures, if you like, the last 9 games of last season, and we got absolutely battered, and Carlo Ancelotti spoke about that today, and he said he believes we've improved massively defensively since that game. But the defence, if Carlo goes with Dean, Mina, Keane and Coleman, I think was the same defence that played on that day. So, okay, if he goes with Godfrey at left back and Holgate at centre back and right back, then maybe you've got that argument, because we do look a lot better defensively with those 4 players. But then you're missing out Luca Dean's creativity, which is going to be so vital going forward. So do you sort of agree with Carlo then? Do you think that this is going to be a different game to the one that we played last season, or do you think, again, certainly, coming forward, we're going to sort of struggle to put up with that pressure?
Yeah, I think when you look at the the table, I think we're like 8 points. Is it? No, sorry, I think we're 7 points ahead. Yeah. Now, in terms of just looking at like the basic stats of both teams, you've got Everton on 24.82 expected goals, XG really that we call it, and then you've got Wolves on 23 on the dot on XG, but we've scored 26 and they've scored 18. So we seem to be more like the clinical team between the two. And then you look at the expected goals against, we're very similar again. They've got 26.26 and we've got a 24.53. So it's a goal here and there, really. You know what I mean? And then you look at the ball possession, we normally, our average is 50% and they average 47%. Yeah. So I think it's going to be looking at that and looking at how they've both been over the last 3 or 4 games, I think it's going to be like a pretty tight game, in my opinion.
Certainly, and it's going to be difficult. And again, you probably look at them XG stats and think, this could be a game where it's 3-3, 4-4, where both teams are going forward, scoring, but defensively can't keep them out. But then you look at Everton recently and you think, I can't see us scoring 2 goals in a game at the moment, never mind 3. We barely scored 2. Took us 2 extra time to score 2 against the Championship side who were struggling. And I suppose that's part of this conversation going into tomorrow, isn't it, Tom? We have to improve. We simply have to improve. We have to play better than we did against Rotherham, because again, okay, for the first 8 minutes, we looked the more in control, but whether it was because we slacked and we lost our head, or we just felt like we were going to comfortably win, or whatever the reason or the excuse behind it, we just felt a bit on Saturday, and we allowed the Championship side, who was struggling, again, no disrespect to Rotherham, but a struggling Championship side, to find a little bit of confidence. And I always talk about this when previewing and reviewing and talking about games, even just talking about it in general conversation, is that you can turn up and be coming up against a side that have got very minimal quality in the team, struggling at the moment, but if you give them 10 minutes of playing football and thinking, hang on, these aren't much of a threat here, the more confidence that they will build, the more of a danger that they are ultimately. And we seen against Rotherham, a side with very minimal quality going forward, they managed to equalise because we give them all the time in the world, all the space. We were sloppy on the ball, we were giving it away, they built their confidence, they started to fear us a lot less than I think they did in the first 8 minutes, because I think in the first 8 minutes they couldn't get near us, and they thought, oh my god, what's going on, it's a Premier League team, we go 1-0 up, and it sort of all falls to bits for them. But we just stand off then and go, yeah, you know what, whatever the reason is, yeah, this is going to be too easy, or yeah, we don't really want to try hard. They build more confidence. We can't allow Wolves to build that confidence tomorrow, can't we? We can't allow Wolves to look and go, these can be absolutely destroyed here, which is probably what they've done the last 2 or 3 times we've played them.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on who he picks, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, if like we've mentioned in previous videos, I mean, if you're looking up against the Tosin and the Sigurdsson up front, then it's going to be a hard day's work, isn't it, for the midfield and the defence? So, which, let's be honest, they're not really going to take pressure off us. And listen, Sigurdsson played okay over the last few games where he's come in and he sort of showed you think he could do a job for us squad wise, but he needs runners. He does. He needs runners, and so when you look at it from that point of view, if we're looking at a team where you think there's not much pace in it, then Wolves, you'd think and probably assume that they'd take full advantage of it, and it could be one of them games again for Everton where you're looking at it thinking, where's our season going?
Yeah, and it'll be, on the flip side, I suppose, it'd be massive if we can go out and get a result. It'll be Everton, because ultimately we'll be looking and going, now we managed to get a result against this Wolves team, but we barely got a result against Rotherham. But it would be massive, wouldn't it, to our season, not only for getting another win and sort of getting back on track in the Premier League and again making up the points on those teams that are above us and ultimately around us, but it's another team that will struggle to go to, it's another side that will struggle to go to recently and get a win or even a decent performance. And they are a good, well-drilled side, aren't they? They've got some good experienced players that Carlo Ancelotti will be aware of, the likes of Ruben Neves, who's a very, very good player, João Moutinho, who's a very experienced player, even without Raul Jimenez. They've, like you mentioned before, the young lad that they brought on, Roman Saiz, is another one who's been coming on. Connor Cody in centre of defence, we've seen him break into the England setup during the last run of fixtures internationally. So they're a very difficult side, and this would be a massive, massive game if we can turn up and win it. It's going to be very difficult to do, certainly with the players that we've got out injured, because you look at this Everton team, Tom, and it's not just, okay, Calvert-Lewin's out, so we replace him with somebody else. It's sort of, this was the day that we were dreading, wasn't it? The day that Dominic Calvert-Lewin picked up an hamstring injury. We all knew it was coming. We all knew it was going to happen at some point, but it's the day that we've been dreading. And now you look at this, certainly with Richarlison out, which is like double whammy. That's like being punched in the balls and the face at the same time. And you sort of think, how do you we'll go through our predicted starting 11s in a moment, but do you think that realistically Everton have got enough quality to beat this Wolves side, even with those, let's just say for argument's sake, Richarlison's out as well?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, really, because you're putting your trust in the likes of Bernard, Sigurdsson and Tosin, so it's a bit of an hard one because they haven't really showed us, have they, or give us much confidence that they can go and produce, especially against a Premier League side like Wolves. I mean, see, the thing is, and the difference is with Everton now is like the two players that are going to be out, or 100% are going to be out, who would start in the starting 11 is Allen, who's a massive miss for the midfield, and then Calvert-Lewin. I mean, probably one of the best strikers in the league currently, isn't he? Especially when you give him chances. So yeah, the thing is when these players do come in, it's the level and the amount of drop and the the significant drop in performance that comes with it. So I wouldn't really be getting my hopes up watching Cenk Tosun to magically become Cristiano Ronaldo overnight. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be a tough one. I mean, if Richarlison is back, that's what it is, isn't it? Really, if he is back, then I'd be more confident that we can do something against them. But if you're looking at it in terms of Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, and Allen out of that team, then you just hope that we get a draw and come away with the point, and then you go to Villa.
Spot on.
And then you go and see what Villa can produce, especially with the way that club's currently coping with COVID.
Spot on. And look at, like you said, it's going to be difficult. Hopefully the Calvert-Lewin injury isn't long term. Carlo did come out and say, look, it doesn't seem to be anything serious, but I remember him saying that about James Rodriguez, and we didn't see him for about 4 weeks. So hopefully we're not in that situation. Hopefully Dom's injury is something that he can shake off. He played through it the game against West Ham, so it's obviously nothing, sort of like the Allen injury where he's had to come off and he can't physically walk.
It seems like a precaution, and it seems like they're looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Whereas if he does do worse damage, then we can't afford to lose Calvert-Lewin for 10 games.
No, certainly not. Certainly not.
It will be a very quick drop, and you just hope at that point that they've got enough points to not even bring in the conversation of relegation or anything like that. Yeah, you just hope they do that. But listen, we've said it from the start, haven't we? We as fans and looking at it from like a professional point of view, the squad players just aren't good enough.
Yeah,
they just aren't.
That's it.
So you look at it and you want to bring in a player who maybe not necessarily as a backup, but like as in terms of bringing to the levels that Calvert-Lewin is producing, but at least not enough or like a bigger drop than what Tosun will bring.
No, I agree, absolutely spot on. Somebody that, you're spot on. Somebody that, again, it's going to be very, very, very difficult, probably nigh on impossible for Marcel Brands to bring in somebody as good as Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's happy to sit on the bench behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but bringing in somebody that's a lot better than what we have now, that can come on and maybe offer something different to Dom, so that we doesn't get to this point where we're sitting thinking, oh, Dom's got an injury, so Cenk Tosun has to play. And some people have said, oh, well, Cenk done okay against Rotherham, give him his chance. But in the reality of the situation is, if Cenk Tosun was good enough, it wouldn't have taken a forced injury for him to get his chance. Dominic Calvert-Lewin he'd have had a rest during December, he'd have had a rest during November, and Cenk Tosun would have come on and got his opportunity. It's very clear that Carlo Ancelotti, even though he might talk up his arse now and say he's doing well and he's had an injury, this, that, the other, it's very, very clear that Carlo Ancelotti doesn't believe Cenk Tosun is anywhere near as good as Dominic Calvert-Lewin, to the point where he has to play Dominic Calvert-Lewin when fit because he doesn't think Cenk's good enough.
Well, this is the thing as well, is that if Calvert-Lewin does get injured and then we do sell Tosun, then it obviously, you'd assume that he is going to bring someone
in. We'd have to, wouldn't we?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you've got to. Like, if Bernard goes as well, then you're probably looking at a player who can do the winger role and the striker role, maybe, to kill two birds with one stone. But they say it's very hard. It's very hard to do this in January, and you just hope that they don't get put into that position without of their control. Hopefully, they sort of see it now, and they've already got plans in place to bring someone in.
We don't want to be in another situation where we bring in another Cenk Tosun ultimately and pay 20 million for him.
Yeah, Andy Carroll's available, isn't he? So
it's a dark day. Anyway, then let's get into our predicted starting 11s ahead of this game, as we usually do. Tom's wrote a predicted starting 11 down, as have I. Tom, I think you've been on previews before. What I'll do, I'll go through my goalkeeper and back line, and then you can go through your goalkeeper and back line. I'll do midfield, you do midfield, etc, etc. So starting then straight away, in goal, I've gone for Jordan Pickford. Now, I actually think Robin Olsen played really well, to be honest, against Rotherham. He didn't have an awful awful lot to do, to be fair, but he done what he needed to do. Solid. He was very good. The couple of shots that he had faced at him, he dealt with. Don't think he was at fault for the goal, to be perfectly honest with you. And he done okay, but I think the reality of the Robin Olsen situation is that Jordan Pickford will be back in this team. He was rested for the game against Rotherham. He wasn't injured. He was rested, and he was rested very clearly because the view was that he played on, tomorrow against Wolves. So again, as good as Robin Olsen was, and he's done okay so far. Okay, his distribution wasn't great against, I think, Leicester he played, but he's done all right. I just think Carlo obviously sees Jordan as the number one, and that's what it's going to be, certainly in games like tomorrow against a decent Wolves team. Back line then, I've gone for Luca Dean at left back. Obviously made his return to football since the last time he played was against Fulham, where I think he got 2 assists in that game and showed exactly what we'd missed for the last 6 weeks or however long it's been since he's last played, 3 weeks. Obviously, he come in, made his return to football against Rotherham. Decent performance, did struggle at times, but it's understandable why ultimately. Look, he hasn't played for quite some time, and again, I think his positioning was caught out a couple of times, but he needed that game time. I'd rather him have had a struggling game on Saturday and come into Tuesday tomorrow with a lot more sort of confidence and sort of match fitness, rather than that game be tomorrow and ultimately him get ripped to bits down that right hand side of Wolves. So Luca Dean starts at left back for me. 2 centre backs have gone for Yerry Mina and Michael Keane. I think they are the best centre back pair at Everton currently. Michael Keane's been absolutely fantastic. 28th birthday today as well, so happy birthday if you're watching. You're not, but it's worth a shout. And I think Yerry Mina's been quite solid next to him as well, to be perfectly honest. He's had a lot of stick, Yerry Mina, recently, but you actually look at some of the individual stats and he's been very, very solid, certainly next to Michael Keane. And I also think Yerry Mina, when he come on against Rotherham, just shored it up a little bit, got a little bump on the edge, yeah, but he just shored it up a bit and made sure that we didn't, leak anything silly. And then right back, I've gone for Seamus Coleman. Now, I've had Mason Holgate's name written down. I've crossed it out, put Coleman. I've crossed that out, put Holgate. And I've crossed that out and put Coleman because I'm so indecisive about this position. I absolutely love Seamus Coleman. I think he's an Everton legend, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. We absolutely need a new right back going forward. Somebody who can get up and down the pitch constantly. Somebody like a Luca Dean, like we did when we brought Luca Dean in to replace Leighton Baines. But ultimately, at the moment, Seamus is the captain of the club. He's fit, and I think Carlo prefers a natural right back to a player that, okay, has done very well at there, but ultimately was only put there because we didn't have a fit right back. We didn't have a good enough fit right back, clearly, because John Joe Kenny clearly isn't in the conversation anymore. So that's my back line. I think some would argue that it's our best defensive back line. Certainly was at the start of the season when we went on that 7-game run. What's yours, Tom, then?
I've gone with Pickford because I think he's just first choice, isn't he? I think it's a no-brainer, really. Coleman right back, I think he just does a lot more going forward than Holgate, really. I mean, like you said, it depends on really what Ancelotti's going to go for. Is he going to try and attack them, or is he going to try and just shore up the defence and just come away there with a draw, really? And then 2 centre-halves, Mina and Keane. They're the best pairing at the club, aren't they? They're both comfortable with each other. They both suit the system that they want in that low block. Keane's a lot more comfortable when Mina plays, especially with his organisation skills and his presence at the back with Mina. So, yeah, and then I've gone, obviously, you've got to put Luca Dean in that left back. Probably our second most creative player. So he's got to go in, and whether he's played half-assed against Rotherham or not, he's a player that you've got to put in, haven't you? You can't really keep him out the side much longer. And me 2 centre mids, I think, trying to predict Carlo, Decore and Davis. I think really when you look at it, I think he's got more sort of he's more confident in Davies in terms instead of Gomez. Yeah. So I think he will. I think them two are perfect to play with each other. I mean, and then especially I think Decore to save Davies more of a defensively. Yeah. I think if you're going to play Decore and Davies, Decore's got to do your Allen role. So then just ahead of him, I put Sigurdsson. I think it's pretty obvious Sigurdsson's going to play, isn't it? I think he just likes him, and hopefully he doesn't like him enough to give him that contract extension anyway. And then I've gone for Rodriguez on the left. again, I think he's going to play him. And then I've got a Wobie on the right, and then this is probably more hopeful than anything is Richarlison up front. That's just more of a hope. And listen, if he's, I think reading between the lines of Ancelotti's press conference, I wouldn't suggest he's really hurt, would you? I
No.
think he's just sure. I don't really know. I don't really understand why he even said it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because again, before the game against West Ham, he said that he was being rested with Calvert-Lewin and Pickford, and now he's got to be checked. I might have picked something up today in training or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, isn't it?
It's definitely a mad one, and somebody brought it up in the comments of the review before as to, he didn't even go into the disc. Obviously, he said Calvert-Lewin's out, hamstring injury, Pickford returns, Allen's out, 10 or 15 days, whatever. But he didn't go into Richarlison at all, which is a bit strange. And again, the hope is that he'll be fit and he'll be ready. Maybe just sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, when you look at it, he's been in the wars, hasn't he, Richarlison?
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't had the best of times in the last month or so. He's had quite a few little niggling injuries, and he's just battling on because ultimately he's probably our best player. When that's it, he has to play. So let's hope we see him tomorrow night. And I think listen, when you look at that team and that I've put down, you think it's not really that bad, but it's just evidence that them two key positions with Allen and Calvert-Lewin, they just stick out like a sore thumb, don't they?
Yeah, spot on, absolutely. Two really, really important players to Everton's system, Everton's way of playing, and ultimately Everton's quality, because when you take out your striker who scored, 13 goals this season and has been absolutely brilliant and prolific up top, and you're replacing him with, either a winger who has played most of his football on the wing, certainly this season, or a backup striker who, let's be honest, is nowhere near the quality of Dom. And then same with the midfield. I've gone for a different midfield, Tom. This is very hope. This is more preferred than predicted, to be honest, and I don't think there's a catch chance in hell Carlo Ancelotti goes for it, but I really think that it might be time to change something and try something new. I've gone for Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate in the centre with Abdoulaye Doucouré a little bit ahead of them. We spoke on the stream before about Abdoulaye Doucouré and his attacking presence and how difficult it is to get that attacking presence out of him whilst Alan is injured, because ultimately he is the only real player that we know so far, certainly out of that group of midfielders that are Davis, Gomez, Sigurdsson, Doucouré and Delph. He is the only one of them that can do the Alan role. We haven't seen Godfrey or Holgate in midfield. Holgate's a popular name. It's being called for, a lot. Ben Godfrey played there on loan at Shrewsbury, which I know is a much different level to the Premier League and ultimately to playing against Wolves. But firstly, I really want to see Doucouré in more of an attacking role. I think he's a big presence. He showed with the goal against Rotherham. It was a fantastic finish. Really well taken, brilliant ball by Hammers as well. I think if he can get in those areas, I think he'll be vital with missing Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Listen, if Richarlison starts up front or Tosun starts up front, then they have a little bit of aerial threat. Certainly Richarlison does. But I think without having that target man in Calvert-Lewin, I think it'll do us really well to have somebody like a Doucouré running off the striker or running into the box, onto balls or onto headers. He's a big, physical, tall lad. And then I basically just want to try something new, to be perfectly honest with you. I want to see if Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey could sit in front of a defence, and I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Godfrey and maybe, I don't know, Gomez, because it'd probably be Gomez or Sigurdsson, or Holgate and Gomez or Sigurdsson. I just think if we tried one of those two, let's be perfectly honest, they're very good players. Certainly Ben Godfrey, I think everybody at the Great Tom deserves a position in this team, but he's not going to get in at centre half at the moment because Mina and Keane are our two best centre-halves. He's not going to get in at left-back because of how much we miss Luca Dean creatively. And same with Mason, he's probably not going to get in at right-back because he doesn't offer that offensive threat. So I just think, why not try them at sort of centre midfield, at least one of them maybe, and see what they can do, and then allow Doucouré to sort of move forward and be involved a little bit more, because again, it's difficult because he is the only one that can do that Alan role, but I just think he can offer a lot more going forward than what we've seen so far. Before I get into my front three then, what do you sort of make of that?
No, yeah, I totally agree. There's no harm in trying it, is there? I mean, it's not like Godfrey or Holgate's gonna dramatically change the levels of performance in the midfield, is it? I mean, they've got got a lot to live up to, especially with Gomez and Davies, have they?
No, yeah.
Especially with their performances have come on. I mean, Davies played, you'd say, a lot better than what Gomez has given us, but listen, for them two, you might as well try it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
That's it. And then you can chop and change, can't you?
Exactly. If it doesn't work, then you go back to your side and test it. But if it does work, then it does give you the sort of leeway to then give Alan that extra week, maybe, or extra 5 days or something to sort of just rest and get back to full fitness. That's ultimately what it could do. And listen, if they come in and play very well in the space of the next 3 games, or you're probably looking at the next 4 games, aren't you?
Yeah.
Really, for when Alan is going to come in, you're probably aiming for that. Probably looking at that Leeds game away for Alan. Listen, the next 4 games are big 4 games for Everton.
Yeah.
Because these next 4 games are against teams that are around where Everton want to finish.
Yeah.
And you've got Villa, you've got Wolves and Leicester, and then you've got Newcastle at home, which is. It's always going to be hard to break a team like Newcastle down. So I mean, for the next 3 games, let's just try and let's just see what they can do. Yeah. Especially when you, like you mentioned, Decore. I mean, the key thing is that for James Rodriguez is runners, and if he's running into that final third, especially from an attacking position, then. He's shown he's got he has already been in them positions when you think back at the times and you think, he should have scored there and all that. But if you give him that 3 or 4 games to play the role and get comfortable and being comfortable in front of goal, then he's only really going to improve, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, he played that role for Watford.
Yeah, spot on.
So I don't really see why he wouldn't do it for us.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I said, I've seen him at Watford scoring some really, really good goals. And again, I praised James's pass because I think it was absolutely brilliant. But Decore's finish was really, really good. And like you said, James is crying out for runners. He's crying out for players that are moving into the right positions, that are wanting the ball, that are finding space. He's not getting that with Sigurdsson. He's not getting that with Gomez. Okay, he gets it with Luca Dean because he does the cross ball and Luca Dean crosses in and he might get it with Richarlison. But he does not get it with any of the central players. Whereas he got it with Decore for a brief second on Saturday afternoon, and you've seen what he can do. He found them. Decore runs on and slots. And I also think with Godfrey and Holgate in the centre, mate, I think they just had a lot at the bare minimum. Let's say positional wise, they mightn't be unbelievable because we haven't seen either of them in the Premier League. Ability on the ball wise, whatever. At the bare minimum, they offer energy in that midfield, and that is something that Gomez doesn't offer, that Davis doesn't. Even though Davis runs around, he doesn't offer you a lot of energy. Sigurdsson definitely doesn't offer you. They offer you energy. They offer you that when opposition players are on the ball coming towards you, there'll be that strong, almost defensive line ahead of the defensive line, which helps out the back line, obviously, because they don't have to worry too much about players coming in behind. And again, like you said, why not give it a go? You've got 2 young lads there who are desperate to get in the team. Both played defensive midfield before, by the way. Godfrey more so than Holgate, but when Holgate played there against Man United, albeit it was 1 game, he was very, very, very solid. I remember that game, and he was very, very solid. So why not give it a go? Have Decore ahead of them, making those runs into sort of the James Rodriguez areas to find them, and then that might sort of take a little bit of pressure off what, let's be honest, there's going to be a front 3 that we'll have 2 of our best players out. Yeah,
I think the key thing is as well, there's no time like the present to do it, because when you do see Wolves 2 centre mids, they're not energetic, or they're not like a Decore type where they go on box to box. Them 2 are probably far like a better version of Davies and Gomez.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's the type of 2 players they've got there. So you're not going to have runners or energetic players going running off you. The sort of play is going to be in front of you, so you're not really going to have to do a lot in terms of defensive work, but I'd be very confident in them doing the defensive work. It's just the more so is Holgate can be the one who stays back and Godfrey can the one who pushes on. I'd be very interested to see Godfrey in that like box to box role. Yeah. Because from the left-hand side, you have seen the runs from 30 yards with the ball progression. Yeah. Like, we're crying out for someone like that. we're crying out for. I know we've got Takore, but he does most of his progression runs off the ball.
Yeah.
So if we can get someone in that midfield, you can go run that 10, 15 yards with the ball up front, especially with your likes of a Wobie and things like that and Takore, then it could only be a plus, couldn't it? I mean, it makes sense, really.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, that's my sort of thinking for it. I don't think it'll happen. I fully expect to see Davis and Gomez in there, but one can dream. And then from three, I've gone for Hammers on the left, or the right. Hammers on the right, because I just think when he's fit, he's there, isn't he? He's so good, he's so creative. Iwobi on the left. Wasn't impressed with Iwobi against Rotherham, it has to be said, but again, benefit of the doubt, he's done well recently, and we've got nobody else unless, well, even with Richarlison fit, we've got nobody else. And I've gone a Tosin up front because I'm not convinced that Richarlison. Look, if Richarlison's fit, obviously it's Richarlison up front. But like we said just then, Tom, I do think there's a little bit of a something not right situation here, something not making sense. But if Richarlison's fit, he starts up front, obviously over Tosin every day. But I just think that Carlo might look at it and he might go, well, whatever's wrong with Richarlison, Tosin scored against Rotherham, scored another one which was disallowed, we'll give him a go and we'll maybe have Richarlison on the bench to bring on if need be. But again, I'd much rather have Richarlison in there. So there you go, they are our predicted starting 11s for the game tomorrow. It's going to be really difficult, Tom, whoever we play. Because ultimately, like you mentioned, possibly Richarlison out as well. That leaves three of our best players out injured. Yeah. The other, I'd say, if you look at Everton's five best players, let's say creatively and going forward, you've got Dean, James, well not Alan creatively, but he's so important. Dean, Allen, James, Calvert-Lewin, and Richarlison. You could potentially have Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, and Allen out. Dean only just coming back from injury, and James only just coming back from injury. So it's going to be difficult, isn't it? And ultimately, if we have to call on them squad players, I want to say they need to step up, but I just don't think they will.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the key is for Richarlison.
Yeah.
I think if he does play, I think especially against Wolves, I looked it up. He scored four goals in his last 4 games against Wolves.
Loves a goal against Wolves.
Yeah, two against in the first game. I think Jagielka got sent off.
Yeah.
That game, and he was absolutely brilliant. When he thought, oh my God, what have we got here? And he scored 2 there, and then he scored 2 against Wolves at home.
Yeah.
When we beat them 3-2. So he's a very pivotal player, especially against Wolves. And listen, if he plays and we do see that a good performance, then I wouldn't see why not he wouldn't get on the score sheet.
Yeah. And that'll give him a lot of confidence as well.
Well, exactly. He's desperately wanting that goal, isn't he? And listen, if he does score against Wolves, you can see he's the type of player that'll go and get 2 or 3 the next game and continue that form, doesn't he? So let's hope he is back. I mean, he's sort of that player, isn't he? I mean, I know people are looking at it thinking that he's not playing the best thing now, but really, looking at it now, if he doesn't play, then you wouldn't be confident in us going to get a win there, even a draw, does he? So he's that difference maker, isn't he? So people moaning about his performances or anything like that, when these players get injured, you're crying for them to come back, aren't you? So
that's it. You see the difference.
But that's it though. Like when these players do go, and then you see them playing, and everyone's moaning about, oh, Richarlison's not scored, or he's not playing well, or then you look at it and think Calvert-Lewin's not scoring, he's not getting involved in the game. Well, yeah, let's take them out and let's put Tosin in and Sigurdsson on the left or something like that. You know what I mean? It'd be absolute chaos on Twitter, on Everton's Twitter, wouldn't it? So I think you've just got to appreciate your best players, really.
That's it. And bad form as well. Players
exactly.
Have bad form.
But what you've got to look at now, though, Cam, is that the fact that they've got to play every game.
Yeah.
We can't afford not them to play. So when Richarlison's there with a bandage over his wrists and his ankles hurting him, or he's pulling little niggles, and then you've got Dom with hamstring injuries and all that, then who are you going to bring in? You're going to bring in no one, are you? They've got to play through this. So inevitable that the performances will drop.
Yeah, spot on, and yeah, you're absolutely right, and like you said, we're not really in a situation to be saying, oh, he's looked poor for the last 2 games, so drop him for who? Unfortunately, he's going to have to play himself out of this bad run of form, and that might be another 2 or 3 games. But realistically, would you rather have Richarlison on? And there's been this thing recently about his attitude and him wanting to go to Barcelona and this, that, the other. I just don't see any of it. I just think he's a very emotional player who's not playing very well at the moment, and he's not happy with that. And as soon as he gets a goal, and who better to get a goal in the team that he constantly scores against, I think you'll start to see the Richarlison that we know and love.
Yeah, I don't think he's got that attitude, though. I don't think it's in him, Richarlison, to sort of, down tools as it's. No, I don't even think he's got it in him to do that. So, and listen, I think people forget how much like he actually enjoys being at Everton.
Yeah, he loves it.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, if Everton can get to the Champions League, I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed.
Yeah, me too.
I just wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the only way I think personally Richarlison goes is if Everton get such a big offer that they can't refuse it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When you're hitting that 120, 140 million for a player, not a lot of clubs can say no to that, can they?
That's it. And again, Champions League thing as well. If we fail to get in the Champions League, then he might say, look, I need to go elsewhere. But I don't think there's anything malicious in it. He loves Everton Football Club. He absolutely loves it.
But a player of his ability and his age coming into it, I think he's 24 in May. Why would you go against if he does go to go Barcelona or go to Real Madrid? Well, he to me, he looks more of a Real Madrid player than a Barcelona player.
Yeah.
Real Madrid sort of like them attacking forwards who just drive at teams.
Yeah.
With Barcelona, you're after that like little tiki-taka football. I know it's not much in front with Koeman at the moment, but I couldn't even see him going to play for Koeman. In my opinion.
Not if he's spoken to anyone at Everton.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Juventus get involved when Cristiano Ronaldo goes.
True.
You know what I mean? He's that caliber of player. So when that ultimately comes down, I hope people just like the same with like when Lukaku left. I thought people took it for granted, Lukaku.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably the best striker I've ever seen at the club.
Definitely my best.
So you've just got to appreciate these players when they're here, and if Everton don't match it, then they are going to leave, aren't they? So let's hope he gets on the score sheet the weekend, and the weekend, the weekend, by the way, tomorrow, and he carries on and does his form. I mean, at the moment he's got 2 goals and 3 assists. It's not that bad when you look at that. He got red carded for he missed 3 games and
concussion.
And he got knocked into next week, didn't he? Really? I mean, even that. Like, I forgot about. Like, he's come back too soon from that. Yeah. He's dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
So you've just got to look at it and think, and this sort of nonsense talk that people go like, he's no good. He doesn't like. Just put that to bed and just look at what he's gone through and what he's actually. And listen, not a lot of players like Richarlison will carry on playing.
Yeah.
They'd have that 4-week break or 2-week break where they go, listen, I can't keep doing this. I need a break. Yeah. No, he's back on. He'll throw his shirt on the next day. It's the type of player he is. He loves the club and he wants to play football. So that's what you want.
Yeah. Spot on. Couldn't have put it better myself, mate. Absolutely couldn't have put it better myself. And what a time if he is fit to get his first goal in a while and sort of break that poor streak or whatever you want to call it and get his confidence back up. He loves a goal against Wolves, and let's hope he can pop up with one tomorrow. Anyway, we'll leave it there then. A massive thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel as well, don't forget to subscribe. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. A massive thanks to Tom for joining us at such short notice. Really do appreciate it. Anything to say before we finish up, Tom?
No, hopefully we come away with some points and we go again against Villa, don't we? And let's just hopefully we stay around that European places.
That's it. Absolutely have to. Big thanks for watching. Massive game tomorrow night. We'll be back with the instant match reaction and the player ratings, of course, after it. And then we'll have the game review on Wednesday as well. So look out for that one. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. And we'll see you soon.